All right, so this is the Parks Commission meeting for July 2nd, 2020. Let me do a quick roll call and then I'll read my spiel. Susanna Jewell.
Here.
Dave Passios.
Here.
Kayla Wright.
Here.
Jack Rodquins is not with us at the moment. He may try to come on later. All right, so for the whole COVID thing, in accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and will be broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel, and that this meeting of the Lunenburg Park Commission is being conducted remotely. Accordingly, for those that are participating via video, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. The order, which you can find posted on the town website on the COVID-19 information page, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of this meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. However, this meeting is going to feature public comments as well as board comments. So, all right, let's get this going. So this meeting is officially opened at 6:31. First thing on our agenda is to welcome Mr. Passios and to reorganize the committee. Currently, we are a 3-member board, and we are in need of a chair, a vice chair, and the third one is completely up to us. We can do it as a secretary or just a member.
Are we supposed to nominate people?
You can nominate people. You can do whatever you would like.
I
nominate Karen Menard as chair.
Awesome.
All right.
I second that.
Excellent. Any discussion on that? All right, so we need to do a roll call vote on that. So all in favor, Susanna?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And an aye from myself because I'm crazy yet again. Vice chair position. Susanna, you were it this year.
Yeah.
It's
I would love to nominate Dave for that.
okay.
I don't want to sound like I'm overtaxed by this board at all. I'm totally not, but I am overtaxed by my children and this whole in life right now.
Sure, that's fine. I'll second that.
Up for it? Okay.
Yep. Dave, are you good with that?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely good with that. And you know, been there, done that with the kid thing, and mine are approaching 30, so challenges, but nothing like you guys are dealing with.
I'll remind you, Dave, that I have kids approaching 30, and I also have kids that are 4. So
Oi.
you're welcome to, join in that fun. All right, so we have Dave. So Susanna motioned that, and I seconded that. So roll call vote on that. Susanna?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And an aye from myself. Susanna, do you want to just, Dave as well, do you want to stay with just the third person as a member, or does somebody want to do it as a secretary?
Karen, would you like someone to be a secretary for these?
So it doesn't matter to me either way. I guess my hope is that for the past 5 years, I think, as long as I've been on this commission, I've done all the minutes, which is fine. I'm hoping that if we don't nominate a secretary and we stay with a member, that we can maybe share some of the responsibilities of that.
Okay.
It's not overly difficult to do. It's just sometimes I run out of time.
Yeah, no, I'm open to whatever. If you want me to do that, I'm happy to be called secretary.
What are your thoughts, Dave?
Whatever works for you guys. Minutes are problematic for me most of the time, unless I've got a YouTube video to watch to remember what we mean.
So why don't we do this? Let's nominate, I will nominate Susanna as secretary, and then Susanna, you and I can together figure out minutes as we go.
Okay.
If there's some night that you would prefer to them, that's fine. So I am making a motion to nominate Susanna as our secretary.
Okay.
Second.
Third.
Dave Passios, seconds.
Awesome. Thank you. Roll call vote on that. Dave?
Aye.
Aye.
Susanna's an aye, and an aye from me. Okay, so we have reorganized with myself as the chair, Dave Passios as the vice chair, and Susanna as our secretary. And I will let the folks at Town Hall know that so that they are aware. All right, now we are on to our town manager, DPW, or rec director updates. Kayla, I'll let you take it away from here.
So I did send it's a small update because my main focus right now has been the beach and getting programs up and running. Summer programs, there's a handful of summer programs starting next week, both virtual and in person. I'm kind of right now juggling on how best to get that advertised because I feel like without our own Facebook page, and I know we talked about this before, but without our own Facebook page, I feel like I'm sending it to other people and kind of playing a sit and wait game. Whereas I just feel like if we had our own, I could easily just update it from my phone. That's another, I also do have a town cell phone number now that it's posted in my email and you can give it to people if they're calling you. I know people have been calling the office about beach questions, field questions, but I now do have a town cell phone and I'll shoot that over to you guys in an email so you can direct people to that number. So I do have programs planned and I've created a flyer that's circling out there. The senior center and the library have been good about helping me get the word out also. And I'm working on a flyer right now for the programs for the rest of the summer. Some vendors have kind of had to adjust how they're doing things, so it was just kind of waiting for them to get back to me. My rec is up and running, and I'm going to be working with IT to kind of transition to make sure that we have just one site so people aren't confused. And I know a few people used the old one to purchase beach passes, which until I was told about it, I didn't even know that was still active. So I'm going to be, now that my rec is fully up and running and all the beach stuff is actually on there, it's just a matter of which option I'm posting after tonight's meeting, but it's all set up in there. So once kind of after tonight's meeting, I'm going to be working with IT to pretty much transition. So we just have that one website now. And as far as the beach, we can get more into that down there, but I did reach out to all the applicants and have heard back from everybody that they're still interested in the position. The beach application is not approved yet, but that's simply because the new requirements, we have to have a set opening and closing date. And when I was talking to Jim, that's what he had expressed to me, is we have to have a set opening and closing date. And once we have that, I can just email or call his office and let them know. The same with the beach testing. It hasn't been tested. The water hasn't been tested yet. But I did let Jim know that we were having a meeting tonight, and he said to give him a call afterwards if the decision was to open, what the date would be, and then he would go out. He said most likely himself would go out and do the 5-day sample. But those are the two main things on that end for the beach. So keeping that in mind, if a decision was made tonight, we can't open tomorrow. Because we have to have the beach tested and we have to have the permit back in hand. And then as far as fields, Little League is on the fields. They are practicing, as well as the Phillies are on the field practicing, and softball is on the fields practicing. I know that I didn't see it, but I have heard, because our field users have very nicely sent their game schedules to me. As soon as Governor Baker announced that phase 3 was starting on Monday, which phase 3 includes the ability for some games. I'm just trying to get my hands on all the list of those regulations and kind of going through them. And then I'll be in touch with the field users tomorrow to make sure that if there's any additional requirements, in addition to the control plans that they already sent me and things like that, to make sure that they're all set to go for when they have their game schedules that were sent to me. And that's pretty much it.
Great. Kayla, we had talked about opening a Facebook page for the recreation piece of our puzzle.
Yes.
Is that something that you want to do?
I think so. I think at this point, at first I just wanted to kind of see how it was going to go, because Jack had said it could all go through DPW. And that's what he kind of wanted to do with Cemetery. And I think Cemetery has their own Facebook page. But I think just because of the nature of it, it's so easy for me to just post a flyer about a specific program or just post an update about a specific program. And I mean, both Jack, like I sent it to Jack and I sent it to Heather just to get posted on both like the DPW and the town. But I feel like I'm a little bit of a nuisance sometimes with just continually like throwing it at them to post. And I know it can't be done immediately because they have so many other things to do, whereas I can easily do it right from my phone. So I think that that's something that we should do at this point, just because I think it would make the most sense, especially to get the word out about programming, about, field usage, about beach usage, things like that.
Do you want to ask town manager to throw something up on the Lunenburg Facebook page just to start getting the word out there? I don't know how many people are on the DPW page. I think that there's quite a few that follow that page, but I think there might be equally, if not more, people that follow the town page. The other thing you can do is if we were to somehow create something, it can be posted if somebody joined, like if there was a Parks and Recreation page, I think you can share posts, and if you put something up, we could share it on the Lunenburg community pages. There's a bunch of them. School, the news and announcements one is the first thing that comes to mind. So that could certainly be a way to get it out there faster so that we get some interest in the programs that are supposed to start next week.
Yeah, so I'm gonna finish. I did start creating one. I just kind of wanted to get you guys' opinion on it, but I will finalize it. I did send the flyer and a little blurb to Heather about posting it on the town Facebook. I just don't know if it's up yet. I don't think the one for DPW is up yet. So I will finish creating it and then I'll kind of send it to all of you guys so that you can see it as well. And
I don't mind sharing things. I just know that it's sometimes my audience can be limited depending, whoever's on my friend list or, however group settings are done. But it's also tough because, we're on this commission. So it's sort of one of those, it's that fine line of the open meeting law. And
yeah, and if you let me know like groups and stuff that to kind of follow with it and share with it, and that will help too.
Sure, we can absolutely do that. Great.
Yeah,
So
there are a lot of people looking for answers that they could just go they can just get directed right to this site instead of having us even try to answer for them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I believe we've all received it, but I will give a quick update on Jack's side of things. He did clean and grade out Fitzgerald, both the fields at Fitzgerald and McNally fields, and completed a major cleaning of the weeds and vines, etc. The fields were mowed yesterday by our subcontractor, who's Jacobs Landscaping. The staff is going to be tuning up Marshall, Powell, and the softball field before the end of the week. So this was a couple of days ago, or yesterday, so it should be done this week. He also mentioned that most of the park budget was depleted as the fiscal year came to a close yesterday. I encumbered the funds to complete the repair and repainting and relining of the Wallace basketball court and the demo of the old bathrooms at Marshall. He mentions that the town manager had asked us to curb spending some weeks ago, and that in order to try to curb that spending, they repaired the merry-go-round at Wallace Park themselves, saving approximately about $6,000. So that's the update from him. So the fields are being worked on. I know that some concerns had come in on the condition of, I think, McNally, but it seems like he got onto that this week. So we should be good to go on those fields and Marshall by the end of the week. So that's Jack's update. All right, so now the big one, and why we're here tonight and not in a few weeks. The town beach.
Karen, could I cut in for a minute before we get into the beach?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
Yeah, the discussion you had a little bit earlier about Facebook pages, I totally support Kayla going for a parks page. Short term, the solutions that you talked about are fine, but without a excuse me, a page dedicated to parks, you're not hitting your target audience, and your target audience doesn't know, first of all, where to go. Second of all, if you go on the town website trying to find anything, unless they splash it across the front page of the website, they're impossible to find. So, and that's what cemeteries, why they did what they did. They wanted to be separate so that if they had announcements or anything like that to make, and even advertising for different things, then they had control of it. No waiting to get stuff posted. The chair had access to it immediately, and there's your target audience. So I'm not sure it's appropriate to make a motion this evening, but I think the board should support Kayla.
We actually already made a motion that back in the spring, maybe, Susanna, I don't know if you remember, but we had made a motion supporting Kayla starting a Facebook page, giving her our permission, for lack of a better word, saying it was fine by us. So, you know, whenever she's ready to pull the trigger on that,
Yeah,
go right ahead,
Yep.
Kayla.
we're good.
Awesome. Did you have other comments on that?
I just think my comments, you know, this evening's just indicate that the commission still supports that move.
Thank you. Do you have anything else on those, on any of Jack's updates, or do you want to wait till board comment later?
I'm all set on everything so far.
Great, awesome, thank you. All right, so Lunenburg Town Beach 2020 season. We need to make a decision on whether or not we are opening, and if we are, we need to make our recommendation on hiring of staff. So Kayla, I'm gonna let you sort of run with this for a bit.
So I sent everybody like I think it's like a 2-page just overall recommendations, and then I did send a little more detailed like opening and operation plan. After kind of working through everything, talking with Jim from Board of Health, I do think we can open. I don't think we can open immediately. Like I said earlier, it's not something that if it's voted on tonight can open tomorrow. My recommendation for an opening date would be July 13th. Just because in order to get all the staff on board, all the rehires would have to call Julie to make sure all their stuff was all set, and any new hires would just have to meet with Julie and go through that paperwork, as well as the beach would need to get tested. I would like to have all the staff meet at the beach for 1, possibly 2-day training to have the beach set up, to do cleaning, so forth. So if it was to open, I would recommend the opening date be July 13th. And
Could I cut in for just a second, just so I understand? Now you're saying opening on the 13th to the public, so your staff would actually be on payroll and on site previous to that?
yes, ideally the week before.
Okay, that's great.
Just for 1 or 2 days, depending on when all the paperwork and basically the okay was given from Julie and anybody else that needed to give the okay as far as paperwork wise. But that's the goal, is to, which is next week, to have them down at the beach for 1 to 2 days for training.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you.
Excellent. So Kayla, you're comfortable with the requirements that we're going to have to put forward to safely open the beach? You believe that there's going to be enough supplies in order to open up the beach, both from PPE on the staff side, but also what we need to do on the patron side. You're comfortable with all of that, those regulations that have come through?
Yes, with a few kind of adjustments, and I did put that in my recommendations. So as far as staff wise, I do have masks that can be supplied to them, but it would be encouraged that they supply their own, because they would have to wear a mask at the check-in station. They would have to wear a mask going to the beach and exiting the beach. However, when they're on duty, and this is from in my conversations with Jim, when they're on duty, they should not have to wear a mask, because we would place cones around the beach chairs so that there would be the 6-foot distancing. But the check-in station, they would be required to to wear one, even though we would install plexiglass, just so it created an additional barrier, but it'd be hard for them to have 6 feet of social distancing at the check-in area. In talking, I think we'd be able to get, you know, like the hand sanitizer, to have a hand sanitizer station. But in talking with Jack, I don't necessarily know about the bathrooms. That's kind of that would be up to you guys. I think he did recently send an email about what it would approximately cost us for.
I do have that as well. I
For
do see
cleanings of the bathroom. And, you know, in talking with Jim, he did say that the staff should be responsible for checking the bathrooms regularly while it was open to the public, and kind of doing a general clean of all the high touched areas. So doorknobs, sinks, toilets, and I don't mean like scrub the toilets, I mean like the toilet handles, things like that. Basically the high touch areas, he said they would just have to do, you know, regular cleanings while the beach was open, and then a full clean after it, because then it would be clean for the next morning type of thing. As long as we were following all the cleaning guidelines. But I don't necessarily, and this is something that I would have to check with Jack about, is if we would bring in the cleaning crew, because we don't have enough of those supplies on hand. We would for like the general cleanings of it, whether it be the Clorox wipes or the particular spray that's needed for those types of wiping down. But the other suggestion is that we have to, well, in order to do this, there would have to be 2 time slots pretty much for the beach to be open, a morning time slot and an afternoon time slot. And anybody wishing to go to the beach would have to pre-register. One, so we can control the capacity, because we have to limit the capacity at the beach just so that we can maintain the 12-foot social distancing between toweling areas. That's the requirement, is 12 feet between toweling areas. So there would have to be a morning time slot and an afternoon time slot. And the time slots that I kind of put forth leave a half hour between the two, so that a little bit more of a cleaning could be done by the staff if the bathrooms were open. And basically just gives them a chance to, if, you know, they're working the check-in station and they haven't had a rotation yet, they can remove their masks for that, you know, 30-minute time frame, things like that. But as far as the regulations and cleaning and stuff, I think, and that's also why I would want to bring the staff in for a day to 2 beforehand, because there are strict guidelines. And I mean, with anything, even before COVID, when there's guidelines, you know, whether it be for summer camp or anything, a concern of mine is always making sure that the staff is fully aware of them and fully aware of, you know, how strict it is to follow them. These are strict guidelines, and it's health and safety that's pretty much on the line with it. So it's making sure that they understand the process of going to the beach, is all pre-registering, and then when they get there, scanning their cards in and things like that, and making sure that the cleanings are getting done, and that is a responsibility of their job now. But after talking with Jim and kind of working out basically everything that I highlighted in the recommendations and in the opening and operating plan, I do feel that we could open it.
Okay. All right. So I guess my question to the commission is this. I would like to run through some of those beach recommendations, especially around fees and things like that. I'm feeling like we should motion on whether or not we're opening the beach, and then tackle these next steps and do them in a couple of different pieces versus doing it as one whole thing. Dave, I see you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
I wanted to talk about the bathrooms. Are we going to come back around to that in your step-by-step?
Yeah, we definitely can. If that makes sense to everybody else. If it doesn't, then we can tackle it now.
That's good. I
think we should tackle that issue now, because that's one of the 2 stumbling blocks that seems to be still in play. The rest of the stuff is not insurmountable. Supplies wise, I won't put up with it's not available because I can have whatever you need down there within a week
Okay.
donated.
Okay. All right, so we'll tackle the bathroom now. That's perfectly fine. So there's two options on the table. The first option would be closing the beach house to basically everybody except for employees when they need to, I'm assuming, go in to use that bathroom. I don't know if we're forcing them to use if we had porta potties, if they'd have to use that. Is it?
The staff would be able to use the bathrooms in the house.
And they'd be able to utilize the house to store there's a refrigerator in there. They'd be able to utilize the house to store their lunches.
Yes, the house would be open, I think with either option. The house would be open for just the staff. And I should have mentioned that, I'm sorry. For check-in and check-out, I think that to allow for the social distancing, I think that still should be done through the gate, whether we choose to keep the bathrooms open to the public or not. That's a decision on you guys, but I think that the check-in and check-out should still be done at the gate to allow for the social distancing, because we plan to put 6-foot markings along the fence just so that people are aware if there is a line to check in at a certain time frame.
I do agree with that, Kayla, completely, because that's a single door upper ramp. So, you have kids that could run up, and no, I absolutely agree with that. So then the other option would be so the bathroom could be open to everybody, or we could bring in porta potties, and the bathrooms inside would be available to the staff, and the porta potties outside would be available to the public that are there as swimmers and beachgoers. I do have the information from Jack. He said he found out that the townwide cleaning service would charge $1,000 per month for 3 cleanings per week, and that to understand that this is only an estimate. So Kayla, I do have a question on that piece. So is it right now the requirement is high touch areas get cleaned more frequently, that every day that a more thorough cleaning needs to be done? And is there a requirement that 3 times a week we have to bring somebody in for a deeper clean? Like, what is the requirement on that deeper clean? Is it something that is completely out of possibility for our staff to do, either because there's no supplies or because they're not experienced in deep cleaning? I don't know what the right word is.
So the deep cleaning, I would have to pull up the regulations again, and Dave may have the regulations or know a little bit better. I just don't have them directly in front of me, but there is a requirement of a deeper cleaning, a minimum, I believe it's a minimum of 1, if not 2 times for public restrooms like this. I wouldn't have the staff do it merely because I believe the cleaning crew would use typically a stronger type of cleaning that I would want the staff to be handling. I don't see an issue with the staff doing the cleanings throughout the day, because they'd be using items like any store is using, the Clorox wipes, Purell, things like that. I think that the deeper cleaning should be done by a cleaning crew versus the staff.
Okay. And is that deep clean, does that have to be done whether or not if the beach house is only open to staff to use that bathroom, does the deep clean still have to be done the number of times, so that if it does cost $1,000 a month, it's going to be $1,000 regardless of whether or not the inside bathrooms are opened or the porta potties are there?
So that's a great question. And that's one that I didn't ask Jim about. I know that Jim's recommendation was if we did have bathrooms on site to utilize the bathrooms versus porta potties. And he seemed to think that, like I said, the staff doing the cleanings throughout the day and then the deep cleans would suffice. But that is a great question that I didn't ask him, is if we only kept the bathrooms open to the staff. I know if they are open, the staff is technically considered public, so there would have to be a minimum of 1 deep cleaning per week.
Okay.
Just based on the guidelines.
I think we should have the house open for bathrooms.
I'd like to cut in at this, Karen, I'd like to cut in at this point.
Sure.
Because I had a conversation with Jim 3 hours ago, And I think you really should have a serious conversation with Jim before you worry about these deep cleans and everything. Because his description to me, number one, he sees the porta potties as problematic. I'll leave it at that. He can tell you what his issues are with that. I don't want to paraphrase his statements. Secondly, use of existing bathrooms makes more sense to him. And he sees no problem with the staff doing a cleaning at the beginning of the, well, actually, if you clean it the night before, then there's really no need for cleaning first thing in the morning. I'd propose that we stretch out the break between the two sessions, if at all possible, to at least 45 minutes. I'm wondering how you work in lunch breaks in there also, which employees are entitled to, and could be covered during that downtime. And basically, the conversation I had with him mentioned nothing about deep cleanings unless you had a certified contamination from someone who tested positive with COVID after the fact. Then you close down for 24 hours, you do a deep clean, so on and so forth. That's what all of the businesses, all the schools did before they clamped everything down. He sees, according to my interpretation of his conversation with me, he sees no need for contracted cleaners to come into that operation as long as the staff has a initial training and has the materials to work with to do a basic cleaning. There's no need for fancy chemicals and deep cleans. That's my interpretation of my conversation with him today.
Okay, Susanna, do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I just think that if we can control how many people are in the house at one time, I really feel like we should have the bathrooms open to the public, for sure. Not just, not just doors wide open, go as you will, but as like a certain number of people in the building at one time, like a mom and her kids or dad and his kids or something like that,
Right.
You're still going to need to have a sign-in sheet for the use of the bathrooms for contact tracing.
Yeah, definitely.
But that's done for every entity, including farmers market.
So I think I'm not sure that's necessarily the case, Dave, because I believe that when they check into the beach, we've collected their information. So therefore, even if they go into the bathhouse or they don't, if somebody tests positive and it gets reported to us or gets reported to Kayla, all of those people that were on the beach that day are contacted that they could have come into contact with somebody while they were at that facility. So I'm not sure we need a separate one for to go into the bathroom like the farmer's market, because at the farmer's market, we don't have to check in to go there. So there's no running list. Like nobody knows that I was at the farmer's market 3 weeks ago and wasn't there this past week. So I don't know if it needs a separate check-in. My only concern with the bathhouse or the beach house in general, and again, some of this is a concern that may not be legitimate because I don't fully understand the requirements for cleaning, is that the bathhouse isn't in the best condition. It's a well-loved bathhouse, and there's a lot of, if I'm remembering correctly, a lot of unfinished wood surfaces, and I guess I just don't understand how we would clean those so that they would be safe for the public to go in. I don't know if just wiping off a piece of raw wood is enough to kill anything that might be on there. Again, it's my uneducated, thought on where my concerns would lead me. And that would be, do we have a beach house that is in condition enough that can be cleaned safely? But I do agree, if we can open the bathhouse or the beach house to utilize the bathrooms, I would much rather see that than porta potties for a whole variety of reasons.
Right.
One being that you're going to put people on the beach, and sometimes porta potties just don't have the best smell that goes with them. People on the beach are going to have to smell it. And then if you put it over on the other side, on the playground side, you have people that live in the house next door. They're going to have to smell it if the smell starts up. And yes, I know that we can call somebody and have it cleaned out. I guess I'm not there thinking that we have to go the porta potty route, because the expense of the porta potty route, because I would assume if we have to clean the inside of the bathhouse, that we'd also have to do the same cleaning of the porta potties. So between the expense of the porta potties and the expense of additional cleaning, to me, it doesn't make sense. It would make more sense to utilize what's there in terms of facility.
I feel like people will treat the bathrooms in the beach house differently than they would treat a porta potty as well.
Okay.
There's a certain level of respect that porta potties are issued.
Okay. So does anybody does somebody want to make a motion on opening up? I don't even know. I feel like I'm putting the cart before the horse if we make a motion on the bathhouse, but at the same time, I don't know how we make a motion on the bathhouse if we haven't officially opened up the beach.
Yeah, Karen, I'll make a motion that the commission approve opening the beach for the 2020 season, and we'll have to pick dates. And I mean, if something stands in the way with the 13th, we can adjust the date, but the motion will, I guess the other question, I need the potential closing date. Because I'll motion the 13th of July as the opening date, but I'd like to motion the closing date at the same time.
Sure. So Kayla and I can probably both help with that. Kayla, do you remember the date that we put on the application to the state for seasonal employees?
I just looked at it, and I believe it was, let me just pull it up in my email real quick, but I believe it was September 23rd, because we had talked about just weekends in September.
Okay.
Hold on one second, and let me just find it real quick.
Susanna, school in Lunenburg starts the week of September 1st.
Who knows, right? I haven't heard. I think that was what it was.
So I believe
It was after Labor Day this year.
Yeah, because Labor Day this year is the 7th of September. So
Okay.
I believe in the past, Dave, we have always closed the beach at a maximum, the weekend before school started, the calendar start date of school. So in this case, we would normally have closed it August 29th and 30th.
So on the application for seasonal employment, it's September 15th.
Okay.
Let's stay open till then.
So,
Okay, well, that will be my motion. There's nothing to say that we can't motion to close early if circumstances warrant it. It's just that the permit will allow us to stay open between those dates.
can we close it on September 13th? Because that's a Sunday. So at least, so we're finishing up with a weekend versus a weekday. I mean, it doesn't, I guess in the grand scheme, 2 days doesn't matter.
Okay, well, what was the September date for the employees?
The September date was the 15th, and it was, I think we had said the 15th because if we closed on the Sunday and there was any type of wrap up that needed to be done, or for me to have like a meeting with the beach coordinator and stuff like that, it could be done on those 2 days where it would still be covered for being paid type of thing.
Okay, well, here's how I'll motion this, and this will take care of that. I move that we shoot to open the beach on July 13th with a closing date of September 5th, close the beach on September 13th to the public and close the beach for the season on September 15th.
I second that.
Right, so we have a motion opening the beach on July 13th to the public, closing date of September 13th to the public with a seasonal state application closing date of the 15th. We can't have anybody on the books after the 15th. I would actually like to make an amendment to that because I am thinking that our motion should include something along the lines of as allowed by state, I don't know, policy. I don't want to call it a law. I guess I just don't want anybody to think that us making this blanket decision to open on the 13th, close on the 13th of September, if we ever had to close down during the season, whether because we had a positive COVID response, whether we have folks that are abusing the fact that we're open and not following social distancing or any of the other policies put forward by the state, I don't want them to think that this supersedes that, because it does not. The state will, that's not our decision to make. If we don't follow those rules, the state's going to close us down. So
Yeah, we could say something
Right,
like,
I feel that's really irrelevant to what we're doing right now with this motion, because the state mandates will trump anything we're saying right this minute anyway.
okay. Are you good with that? Just keeping it as is, as the 13th, July 13th to September 13th, Susanna?
I guess so, and I guess I hear Dave's point, and I hear both of you, but I guess if something does come up from Baker or whomever, or if we run into issues, we can mitigate them as they come up, if they come up.
That's fine. And maybe me just saying it out loud in a meeting will be enough anyway.
Yeah, well, I have a tie-in to that though. So given that concern, which I also have, Karen, I'm a little dubious of selling seasonal passes. Are we still talking about that?
Yeah, so let's do the motion to open up the beach, and then we'll deal with that after, because
Okay.
we'll figure that out in a second.
Okay.
So I have a motion on the table from Dave Passios, opening the beach on July 13th, closing it on September 13th to the public, and a closing to the on the 15th for the entire season, including staff, which is in line with our seasonal beach application. I can second that.
Second, okay, third.
And so let's take a roll call vote. Dave,
Yes.
Susanna,
Yes.
and an I for myself. So we are opening the town beach, and it will be opened on the 13th of July is the current goal to get that done. Obviously that there's some things that need to get done beforehand, including our beach permit and our water testing, and all that kind of stuff. The beach, at least the outside, is ready to be opened. The lines are up. All of that is good. All right, so let's deal with do you need a motion from us, Kayla, on the bathhouse, or is the three of us saying to you, let's just make it a motion. I'm gonna make a motion that the beach house be opened for the public to use the bathroom facilities, with the entrance and exit to the town beach through the fenced gate outside and not through the beach house itself.
Second.
Okay, can we discuss that, please?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, the only reason I want to discuss this is that I was over at the beach last Sunday, I believe it was, walking up and down outside the fence and looking at everything. They've done a good job in prepping the beach, and the ropes are already out, and they're painted the benches, so on and so forth. One concern I have that can be mitigated as long as the DPW is willing to do this is that there is a 5 to 6 inch hot top berm at the gate to control rainwater, to hold it from running onto the beach and let it funnel towards a catch basin that's nearby. That's going to be problematic with people having to get over that, little kids. So I think we just need to talk about what we're going to do about that. I have no problem with the motion. I totally agree with it. But we just need to understand that I believe that we might have a little bit of logistics issues at the gate.
Like a plywood ramp, maybe?
I'm not sure that that's going to be the right way to go. I personally would like to see the berm cut for the summer.
So we can ask Jack to take a look at it. We can send it a message through Kayla to have Jack take a look at it. My thought on that, and I don't have it visually in my head at the moment, is that if it's 5 to 6 inches, that's probably not much more than if they had to step up onto a sidewalk. So if folks can step up onto a sidewalk, I guess I'm not overly concerned on whether or not they can get over that berm. I am, however, if there is a berm there that is difficult to get over, that is our only handicap access to that beach, because we can get you into the beach house, but we can't get you from the beach house onto the sand. So that the plan all along for years has always been, if somebody came to the beach that needed to have access, that was handicapped for whatever their needs were, that they were coming in that gate. I'm concerned if that berm would be preventing somebody from getting in on the handicap side. Kayla, can you look into that and have a conversation with Jack to see what we can do to mitigate that, if it is in fact a handicap deterrent? And it would solve your concern too, Dave, because if it was in fact, if our handicap folks can't get in through that gate, it would have to somehow be mitigated, and then it would be gone anyway. And, folks with small kids, or, even myself, who's not always the most nimble person, would be able to get in without face planting on the sand in front of 30 of my close friends.
See, my real concern, and I agree totally, if we get that to be at least close to ADA compliant, then it takes care of the problem across the board for any membership or citizens trying to go use that gate. My concern, when you made the comment about stepping up onto a sidewalk, this isn't up onto a sidewalk. This is over a 6-inch berm with the backside as low as the front side, if not lower. And I think half of your step is into soft sand. So it's not a step into a stable surface.
Okay. So
one of the quick comment, did you see the comments Jack sent around in regards to the mat and
yes.
the problems with trying to use it at the beach gate?
Yes.
Okay.
I did. And since you brought it up, and somebody can correct me if I'm getting the gist wrong because I don't have it in front of me, some ADA compliant mat was purchased in hopes that it would give wheelchairs and people with mobility issues a better entrance and exit onto the town beach. Due to the sloping at our beach, the incline was too great to safely put those mats out. And even trying to get it down to an area where there was a picnic table was also problematic. Is that a good summary of that issue?
Yes.
Definitely is, yeah.
I have more concerns over using that beach house entrance than I guess I do at this point on the berm there. I can't, especially if we have a timed entrance and exit. If there were 30 people on the beach when that beach closed, everybody's going to be exiting at the same time. You could have people coming in, and you don't have to show up at the exact start of your time session, but you could have people coming in and then people trying to leave, and that ramp gives you no space. There is no space to socially distance. And although I would love to say that people are going to stop and let people pass, a lot of our beachgoers are young kids who like to run, and the concern at that area has always been kids running out into that road. So if a kid goes running, now you got a mother running down the ramp, and you got people coming up the ramp, and I just think it's too. I don't think it's a workable situation to have it open. So I would like to see the gate be used as the entrance and exit for this season. That's my thought. So unless somebody has an amendment to my motion, my motion is going to be to use the interior beach house bathrooms for beachgoers and use that gate as the entrance and exit for check-in and check-out.
If we have a, can we pass that now, and then if people on the ground on the beach when it's open feel like it's too hard to keep people from bumping into each other face to face at that gate?
Yeah.
Like I kind of see a one way through the bathhouse to exit or to enter as an option, or are you trying to avoid that?
So, I mean, we can just make a motion that it would be our, you know, our desire that the bathhouse is opened and that that's what the gate is. In the grand scheme, a lot of this comes down to day-to-day, how we are going to make this work. And the day-to-day logistics of things come down to Kayla, our beach coordinator, and our lifeguards. And if something is not working, if something is, you know, putting people in too close proximity to each other or, you know, whatever, I would hope that our beach staff would speak up and work with Kayla and come up with a solution without having to wait to our next meeting.
Yeah, that's all I care about. I just don't want to tie anyone's hands for like moving forward if it's not working on the ground there. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know what your thought on that is, Dave, of whether or not, you know, a change of the day-to-day operations to make something more successful. I don't know if you agree with me that it's sort of outside of our purview, because again, we deal with policy stuff and they deal with the day-to-day stuff. And I think we can put forth as much as we want, but in the grand scheme, if it doesn't work, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
Right. And the only comment I would make is that Jim Garaffi's going to be watching what goes on over there for the first few weeks, especially very closely. And whichever way it ends up going, if he feels it's not working properly, he's going to be in the driver's seat on that.
Yeah.
Because he's in a position legally to close the beach for cause and recommend changes to be more compliant or get into compliance because he doesn't feel what we're doing is compliant. But he's, you know, he's very flexible. He's working towards allowing us to open and doing the best we can to be compliant and move forward from there.
Okay.
So yes, I do agree that that motion probably should be that it is the commission's preference, and leave it at that. It's like a lot of the stuff that's been coming out of the governor's office. It's an advisory, recommended, those types of things, and then the boots on the ground are the ones responsible for actually implementing.
Right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. I second that.
Okay, excellent. So let's do a quick roll. So let me just not amend it, but make sure that I've worded it correctly so we know what I am making a motion that it is the preference of the Park Commission that the interior beach house bathrooms are used for both staff and the public during, you know, beach hours when there's people on the premise, and that the exterior gate is used for check-in and check-out.
Second.
Excellent. So let's do a quick roll call on that. Susanna?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And an aye from myself. Excellent. All right, this is the one I'm really struggling with, Kayla. So and Susanna's already brought it up. So let me ask this question first, because this is going to help me frame, I guess, a question and a comment to help frame sort of where we're going here. You have down that the recommended attendance be capped at 30. Is that like, where did that number arise from? Because I'm just concerned that we are not going to have enough slots available for people that may be interested in attending. It seemed low to me. It may be, you know, again, you're the one doing the research and the legwork, so help us out there.
And it is low, and it was more so a topic of discussion. Because this is my first season at the beach, I don't know how many people were there on a daily occasion last year. So it was more so for topic of discussion. Knowing that one of the guidelines is that groups can't be larger than 10. So if we were to go to the beach, we can't have more than 10 of us with us. That it is low, but it was more so for a topic of discussion, so that I could kind of ask you guys what the attendance has been in the past, and if it should be, you know, upwards of 50 or 100. It was more so to keep that as a topic to be discussed of what the capacity should be.
Okay. So
Can't we just draw a grid on the beach that's 12 foot grid and see how many spots that would be and do that times 5?
I might have a nerdy husband.
I was just gonna say, I believe Karen already has that done.
Okay, good. It's because I have a friend that has a hand in the some Pioneer Valley town beaches, and they put hula hoops on a 12-foot grid. They landscape stapled hula hoops on a 12-foot grid. So if you wanted to show up to the beach, you dropped your towel on a hula hoop, you claimed that spot, and therefore the next spot over would be definitely 12 feet away.
So we have the luxury of the town beach having a fence behind it. And if I look distracted, it's not that I am, I'm actually looking for something that I sent Kayla earlier in the week. So because of that fence, it's, you know, I think it might be beneficial to us to have that fence because basically the posts are all the same distance apart, I believe.
Oh yeah, right.
I'm looking beach map. All right, I'm gonna try this. Don't shoot the messenger if it doesn't work. I've never shared my screen before, and hopefully I'm only gonna be sharing what I want to share versus everything else. All right, let me attempt this. Bear with me, making sure everything's closed so nobody can see. Let's see, I am going to share this. Can you all see that?
Yes.
It's really small. So my husband,
I won't be able to see it on the phone, but that's okay.
I'm going to try to explain it, Dave, and I can send it to you after. My husband went through last weekend, I guess, with nothing else to do in his life, and he sort of mapped things out to see how many people could fit there. So in his drawing, he basically has spots. So he's got areas that are 12-foot square areas, and then it's got a buffer of 12 feet in between it. And he's got 12 of those. There's 11 of them spread along the fence, and then there's the 12th one, which is sort of down at the end in the front. And the thought process on the way he had put that together was that the beach is sloped. Would be really, I don't think a lot of people are gonna wanna sit down on that front slope, and it's been my experience that most people don't. It's the kids that play down there. So by having areas in the back, would allow the kids and the proper spacing for the lifeguards up in the front, so that people can enter and exit the water while keeping, you know, the required distance. So that said, the number of people that I just don't see a group of 10 people going to the beach together. I could be wrong. I feel like it's going to be more families, and maybe families will meet other families. And they would still need that buffer between them. That's 12. So if we say 3 people per group went in, if 3 people per group, and there's 11 groups, that is only 33 people. 4 people would be 44. I guess my concern in looking with the number, and let me stop sharing my husband's graphic. When we have money in the budget that covers almost all, I believe, if not 100% of the beach salaries. That said, it doesn't cover everything. Though that beach line, the beach salary line, doesn't cover what it costs to prepare the beach and, you know, everything like that. So when I look at this and we start talking about what we're going to do for passes, I'm just concerned that a number of 30 not only might exclude a couple of people who may want to go, but may not bring in enough of a cash flow to warrant the number of lifeguards that we would have to have on to cover the needed expenses that we've gone through to open this beach.
I agree.
Could we go with 60?
Could I ask you a question about numbers? And I don't need absolute accurate numbers if anybody remembers. how many season passes we sold for last year to resident families?
Yeah, bear with me, Dave. I can probably pull it up.
Okay.
Trying to remember where I would have put it, though, is the hard part. I feel like I've
Yeah.
opened it recently, so bear with me. So here's the thing about beach passes, and I wish our records were better from the years past to know exactly who was there, or not like who the people were, but the numbers of people.
Right.
And so it's sometimes hard to, for me to look at it and say, well, this wouldn't have happened if we didn't require this. So in the years past, we have required swim lessons, anybody who participates in them to have a beach pass. I don't know if we didn't require that, if we would have sold as many passes as we did. So it's hard for me, and I'm still looking for that, Dave. It's hard for me to figure out, you know, what is what, for lack of a better word. You know, if I can find a number, and I'm still looking, if I can find the number for you, I don't know if we would have sold that many if we hadn't required them for beach passes. I mean, for swim lessons. So I guess.
Right, but I don't argue that point, and I've been aware of what you just said, but it was good to state it in the meeting so that the public hears it also. But that's just, in my numbers head, I need a number to start with,
Sure.
and then work down from there.
I've got it.
And again, it's all guesswork. But you know, if we're looking at last year was 100 passes, then 30, I think, is way too low. 60, 65, 70, or cap it. Our vote tonight could be a cap.
Let me throw a bunch of numbers.
And then leave it up to Kayla to work out the logistics with it, and maybe in combination with discussion with Jim, what the appropriate number is. But I agree, 30 is too low. 75 to 100 is probably too high.
All right. So last year, the way our passes were done was that when you registered for your passes, you needed to include whether you were doing a family pass or an individual pass. And if you were doing a family pass, you needed to list all of the members on it. And last year, I don't think we capped what a family size was. So in what I'm looking at right now, we had a family size of 8. The total number of passes, including non-residents, or the total number of people listed on passes, was 552. The total number of beach passes that we sold is, let's see, where did it go? I think it's 144. Hold on, I don't have it sorted, so I'm trying to sort it as I go.
Mm-hmm.
Lines do I have?
Is it realistic, though, to think that we're going to sell beach passes for the season if there's so many question marks in life right now? I mean,
I know. So it's 144 total passes that we've sold. And no, I absolutely agree with you, Susanna, of whether or not it's realistic. My other concern with doing like a family seasonal pass versus charging by the day is that if for any reason whatsoever we have to close, whether it be because we're not following the proper requirements by set forth by the state, whether we have a positive COVID test and we have to close down for a couple of days, or like we had a few years ago, and now we're in a different time now where we're opening later. But a few years back, we had to close the beach, and I want to say we were closed for 4 or 5 days before that water testing came back safe to open. Mm-hmm. So if we have to start doing that in the midst of all of this, and people have paid for beach passes, they're going to complain, and rightfully so. They should. If we have to close down, especially if it's something that our staff did that required us to close down because they didn't follow protocol, I don't know if I'd be happy either if I had a
I
beach.
wouldn't be happy. I don't think we should put ourselves or anybody in that spot.
So I'm leaning to saying that if we're going to do it, let's do it with daily passes. I don't know. This was the other number I was going to hit you with, Dave. I think I have it open.
Okay.
We ran last year. We asked that we have some attendance check-ins, and we did before swim lessons started. In middle to late, like for example, there's one day that was a Saturday. Attendance was checked at 3 o'clock, and we had 20 attendees there. The next day on a Sunday, we checked at 4 o'clock, and there were 32 attendees. There's a couple of spots where we had 43 and 47 people that had come through. The big numbers, however, are around those swim lesson times, and they were in the morning. So I can tell you by looking at the numbers that when it says that there were 90 people there at 11 o'clock on the 12th of July last year, I know that was a swim lesson day. Because
Right,
I've never seen numbers that high, because then if I go to other times, I have 10 people at 5 o'clock on, on that same day that there were 90 people at, 11 o'clock in the morning, I have 10 people there at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's swim lesson time. So were these numbers driven by swim lessons? Very possibly.
Probably.
And there were a few days, according to this, there were a couple of days, there were 46 people late afternoon one day, 63 people mid-afternoon another. Those numbers are a little more scarce. If a quick scroll through, the average number is under 30 for like the afternoon sessions when there weren't swim lessons. I guess, I don't know how you're going to do it, Kayla, to ensure that everybody has the amount of space needed. I mean, I personally, I guess, would like to see if we can bump it up, or at least know that we would be in support of bumping it up to even 40 or 50 people if we do end up with, if we start off with 30, it's successful. The beach staff is comfortable with 30 and feels that we could invite a few more in while keeping the same safety protocols. I would like to see it increased if we get there. We may never get more than 10 people. I don't know. I can't, this is just so new and such a strange situation this summer that I don't know how many we're going to get.
And I mean, I'd be comfortable after like hearing those numbers and everything. I think, and kind of looking at the spacing more, I think that it'd be okay to say that the max for, because I think going, and again, this is you guys' decision, going with the 2 time slots, a morning time slot and an afternoon time slot, in each of those. So in the morning time slot, the max would be 50 or 60. In the afternoon time slot, the max would be 50 or 60.
Yep. I'm there. That's where I am as well. And I'd be looking at the daily, doing it as a daily pass versus a seasonal pass.
Definitely.
Dave, do you have a preference on that, daily versus seasonal?
Oh yeah, definitely daily, because the system will track all the data that we need, and we need to have ultimate control over the number of people that are going to be on that beach on any one given morning or afternoon. And that's the only way we're going to control that and not overcharge the citizens, as you said before, either if we're forced to shut down or, for whatever other reason, they don't get their money's worth out of the seasonal pass.
Right.
I totally agree with that.
So Kayla was recommending $5 for adults and $3 for children, with children under 2 free. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
That sounds good.
I would like to.
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I was just going to make a comment that I haven't studied the numbers enough to really make any recommendation on that. So I'll let you to go with what, your history is on that. And
It's not
I think
gonna
you have a
cover-
comment.
Yeah, it's not going to, even if we had a full beach and say we had a max capacity of 30, it's not going to cover the cost of running the beach for that day. But we've never expected it to in the past. It's sort of a supplement to what the town's provided and what we bring in, helps to, for the expenses and other things that we have down there. I guess, Kayla, I'd be asking if we could make it a $5 per adult and a $3 for children and seniors, ages 16 and older.
Okay.
What I can
Yep.
also, sorry not to interrupt, but what I can also do is I can also create a daily family pass so that they're getting similar to how a season pass would be. I can create a daily family pass so that if you have, because even if you have children under 2, we want to know who's there.
Yeah.
And the MyRec system, the great thing about that is whether it's the daily pass or the season pass, they have to register everybody and they're given a card and they have to scan for every person that's there. So either way, it tracks them. So I can create a daily family pass too. So it allows families, because if we're going to set a max, families wouldn't go over a certain amount for the day. So for instance, if I have a family of, I have 2 adults, me and my husband, and then we have 3 or 4 kids, we're not paying that rate every day. We could just get the daily family pass, if that makes sense.
It does. I guess my only concern, and this is a concern based off of things that have transpired the past few years, because especially last year, I was the one who was the point of contact for the passes with Adam Burney. It went through his system and I was able to log on and see them as with the coordinator. And we had a decent number of people that sort of took advantage of what our overall plan was, or what we were anticipating for a family pass. It didn't necessarily come to fruition. We had, parents that would put both their names on, and then a grandparent, and then a babysitter, and then 4 kids, and then so-and-so's best friend. I guess I just want to make sure we're able to somehow control it. It's not that I don't want these people to come, just to make that very clear, but some of these babysitters and grandparents, they're not from in town. So if it would be my hope that we are opening to in-town residents only for this summer.
Yep.
And I just want to make sure there's no abuse of what we're putting forward if we do a family daily pass to say.
So with the MyRec system, I can actually put those parameters in, because in order for you, even for a daily pass, an individual daily pass, you have to create an account because it's linked to your account, because you'd be given a card to scan in so we can track, So for instance, if you sign up for a daily pass for tomorrow and then, for 4 other days, you're using the same pass, but it's only letting you register. When you go to scan, it will either say, yes, you have access to the facility, or no, you don't have access to the facility. And you have to create an account. And within that account, I can set parameters so it only allows, 2 adults and 3 children with the same address. And then anything over that, they have to contact me and provide whatever we require for documentation.
How will that work with picking up passes? If we are doing it as a daily family pass, and say a family's only going to go once and they put their name in the night before, where do they pick up their passes the next day?
So they would go right to the beach. And in that instance, so when all this is created, so daily pass, you can go on and register for 7 days, 10 days. You don't have to do it one day at a time. If you know that you're going to visit the beach however many times, you can choose to prepay, or you can do it one at a time. And I plan to be, especially in the beginning, I plan to be at the beach most mornings for opening, but they'll be able to pick it up right at the beach because it'll all be tied to the account. So you look at the account, and this is part of the staff training, and this will be part of the requirements and the strict expectations of, because the tracking is a state guideline. We have to follow the tracking piece of it. And they'll be picked up at the entrance. You'd give your name and it can be quickly looked up in the system. I can also set up ahead of time. They can come get passes from me. It really is very flexible with how we can do it with the MyRec system.
And what do you say to people that don't want to do a credit card into the computer?
Well,
I get that question.
So I can say that there's no additional credit card fee.
Okay.
that you're paying if you choose to do it online. Even if you come to the beach with a credit card, it's still going to be entered the same way as it would if you did it online with a credit card.
Okay.
I would ask that cash is limited just because of everything that's going on.
Right.
The person at the check-in, we would have gloves available if they would feel more comfortable wearing gloves, they can. But I would encourage everybody to use a debit or credit card. Just
Yeah, I've been at
because,
a bunch of state parks this past few months, and it's only credit cards. There's no cash at all. So
yeah, they don't, right. So I would encourage in all the advertisement, I would encourage debit and credit. And
Right.
if we're doing dailies, they can't just show up at the beach. It would have to be prepaid anyways.
Okay.
Kayla, could I ask you to ask a question in that process? Once you set up an account, does that create a trackable account number that's assigned to a card, and that card is used for every registration or sign up you make for the rest of the season? Or is there going to be a card for every single day and it's going to have to be manually checked? I thought we were going to try to go to a scan system.
Yep. So it would be a scan system. So when they purchase ahead of time, a number would be assigned to their account, and I would be the one assigning the number to the account. It's as simple as me just entering the number that's on the pass. And then, like I say, when they scan in, it would say that they have access to the facility or they don't. So if they pre-registered for that day, then they would have access to the facility. It would track the time that they scanned in, who was there with them. And then if they came the next day but didn't pre-register for it, when they went to scan their card, it would say that they don't have access to the facility.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. I was just concerned that I don't think we've got enough for the staff to do just to get through each day with everything they're going to be required to do. I don't think we should be selling passes and collecting money in any way at the facility. People are going to be unhappy with it, but it is what it is.
Right.
And we've got a staff that's got an awful lot of responsibility above and beyond what they've had in the past. That's my personal feeling.
No, I agree with that too. I mean,
I think I agree with that too. Yeah.
it's hard to collect money down there anyway, because then that money needs to be brought to town hall or to Kayla, or it just adds in a totally other dynamic, and it requires them to do accounting down there and account for all the money that they bring in as well, which isn't a problem, but it's just one more step that I don't think is necessarily needed. I personally feel that we can I make a motion to go with daily passes. I'm hesitant to make a motion. So just to refresh everybody's memory on this, and I don't know if you were at this meeting, Dave, I am almost positive that a few months ago when Kayla presented us a packet of information that we approved a season, family seasonal rate, a single seasonal rate. I think we may have done that. So I do think now that we're in a totally different situation and we are revamping things, I do think a motion needs to be made going to a daily pass versus a seasonal pass. So that's official on the books. I'm hesitant to put in the pricing. I think I would be just imploring Kayla to know that we would be in support of the $5 for adult and $3 for children and seniors. And because if we limit that, if we approve that, it would limit her on creating a family season pass, or not a family season pass, a family day pass. I don't know. That's just sort of where my thought process is on that.
I second that.
I agree with all of that except the family pass. I think we should just sideline that for this year because it adds one more confusing step in there that, number one, has been abused in the past. Number two, it's without the family pass, it streamlines it to they are individual passes for every person going in and out of the beach, whether it be AM or PM session. And we'd have much better, I feel, much better control over it.
I don't mind not doing a family day pass. As long as Kayla's confident that any child under the age of 2 is somehow going to be able to be registered within my rec, so that we have a record of how many people are supposed to be there, versus these 5 people have paid and now all of a sudden we have, you know, septuplets trying to come in that are 1-year-old and we don't have room for them. So is my rec set up so that we can somehow issue a pass for that day for a free under 2?
Basically, it would just be the option of, so when you create the account, you have to list everybody that's in your household with their birth dates. So basically, when you list the birthday, it's obviously going to register that they're 2 or under. And when you go to the pass option, it would give you the option of quote unquote purchasing with no fee attached to it. So the system is designed like online shopping. You put it in your cart. So it would still be quote unquote called a purchase, but there would be no fee assigned to it, and it would go according to the birthday.
And that may alleviate my concern with having a family day pass suddenly be mom and grandma or 2 babysitters and a bunch of kids. So I will make a formal motion then that we support a daily per day pass at $5 for an adult and $3 for a child senior, with children under 2, not 2 and up, correct, Kayla? It's under 2?
Under 2, 2 and under.
So 2 and under. So basically it's under the age of 3?
Yeah.
Okay, so all children 2 and under would be free. That is my motion.
Okay, before I second that, I'd like to know what we're going to do about stating town resident only.
All right.
Yep. So, well, let's do it this way. So these rates that we're doing here, in the past, Dave, when we've done this and we've allowed out of town residents, we've charged them more. So I personally don't think we should be doing out of town residents this summer. I think that if we are going to have a cap at the beach,
It's that low rumble.
at 30 people or under, or even if it's 50 people and under, I think that our town residents need to be priority. That's sort of where my thought process is on that. I don't know where you and Susanna are on it.
I agree with that.
Oh, can I take?
I'm in total agreement. I just questioned it because I wanted to second your motion, but I kind of had in the back of my mind that issue should be included in this motion, but
That's fine.
maybe you disagree.
Do you guys mind if we take a community members? I see Andrea LaFord's on and she has her hand up. So if it would be okay, I'd like to take her comment right now.
Okay.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay,
Great.
Andrea, are you there?
Yes,
Awesome. If you could just tell us who you are, where you live, and then you can have the floor.
Andrea LaFord, 53 Pleasant Street. I had a question. I heard Kayla mention earlier in the meeting that people would register for an afternoon or a morning or an afternoon time slot. So if you're buying a daily pass, aren't you in fact buying a half daily pass?
Yeah, so you'd be buying it for the time session that you're registering for. So you'd be buying a pass for either the morning slot or the afternoon slot. So are you asking that we consider calling it a half day pass versus the whole day, to clarify that we're not letting somebody in for both sessions?
I think my husband has a question. This is Thomas LaFord, also of 53 Pleasant Street.
Hi, Tom.
Hello. You say morning and afternoon passes, but historically the beach opened at 11 and closed at 7.
Yep.
So that's a real short morning and a real long afternoon.
So and we haven't tackled time yet. The recommended time slot that Kayla has come up with would be a morning time slot, and this is just the example because I may be agreeing with Mr. Passios that we need to have a slightly longer time in between each session for cleaning and lunch and whatnot. Kayla's recommendation is that a morning slot would be from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and an afternoon slot would be from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. And it doesn't mean you have to show up at 2 o'clock and, you know, everybody has to be there from 2 to 6. It means that if, you know, if I bought a Peach Pass for the afternoon and I can show up anytime between 2 and 6 o'clock, even if that means I show up at 5:30 and I only swim till 6 o'clock.
So the morning session is half an hour shorter than the afternoon session.
Currently, yes. At the recommendation, but again, these are just recommendations that Kayla's thrown forward in hopes of getting further discussion from the rest of us.
Now, the only problem I see with those times is, as a person who under normal days works from an office 20 miles from here, the only time I'd ever get to swim would be between 6 and 7 p.m.
Okay.
on a weekday.
Okay.
So the new, those new times, not staying open till 7 or 8, will cut off weekday visits from workers.
Okay. I'm trying to scroll through. So our numbers have been, again, and this is me just, you know, doing a random scroll through. The latest time slot I think she took attendance for was usually around 6 o'clock. And she did have some attendance that was 20 and 25. So we can certainly talk about, you know, what we want to do for hours, knowing that we also have to deal with the fact that if the beach isn't self-sufficient, it's not 100% self-funded. So therefore, we need to make sure that we're not putting ourselves so far in the red that next year the folks of town say we can't afford to open this. So I'm just throwing that out there as we, you know, talk further and try to figure out what the best time slots are for these. But I appreciate it very much, your comments. So thank you.
One more comment I'd like to make is with the daily pass for residents, that might end up being prohibitively expensive in a troublesome time such as this, and that I think you might end up, you know, shooting yourself in the foot either way. If you lower the prices, you won't get enough to cover the expenses, but if you keep the prices higher, you may not get enough people to gain the money to cover the expenses.
Right. Yeah, I think this year is just sort of a double-edged sword. It's just one of those years that, we have nothing to go. We have no historical data to go on this because it's just never, you know, and again, it's another one of those things where I look back and I say, would we have sold 144 passes? And those weren't all family passes. They were a mix of everything. Would we have sold that number of passes if we didn't require them for swim lessons? So we could be doing all of this work and we could end up with 10 people that use the beach all summer. I still think it's a worthy cause to try to get this open because I'm hopeful that people can see, you know, that this is a valuable piece of real estate we have over there. I mean, it's the only access to any of our town lakes, public access other than a stump cove over on Lake Shirley. It's a great place. We've got good staff. Kids enjoy it. So I'm hoping this year is different and we get people interested and they want to come and they want to swim and hopefully they love it. And then next year they'll be back, you know, hopefully back to our normal next year. But yeah, no, I agree with you. If we don't charge enough and we charge too much, we could be, and I'm not sure where there's I don't know where the best medium of that is, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So, I mean, I just think we should, I think we have to see where this is going to go. I don't know. I wish I had a magic ball that would tell us how many people were going to be at the beach on July 1st. I don't. It may come back to us and we may get nobody. I mean, this is Kayla's job to figure out with the beach coordinator, the staffing of the beach and how that's going to work. And requiring people to pre-register, maybe that doesn't work for us. But I think that given what the state's asked us to do, I think that's the a good place to start. And if we find that it's not working a week or two into this and Kayla needs to make some adjustments, I think that's what we hired her to do, is to make some adjustments. And if she feels it's something that could be done without pre-registering, or I shouldn't say I think everybody always has to pre-register, but if it means pre-registering the day of versus the night before to get people there to, to help cover some of our expenses, then I think that's what, Kayla may have to make that decision if she can get it to work. I'm comfortable with the daily pass rate. I do agree with the LaFords on, it could, either way could come back and bite us. People may not come as many times if we're charging $5 an adult, $3 per kid, but they may, it could go the other way too. So I don't know. I'm still leaning towards that daily pass of $5 and $3.
I am too.
And Karen, I've lost it in the shuffle here. What was Kayla's recommendation for the prices?
$5 for adults and $3 for children and seniors.
Okay, so you weren't changing her recommendation. You were just confirming her recommendation.
Yeah, just adding in the senior part on the $3. So it would be $3 for adults and $3 for seniors.
Yeah, and last year's rate for that equivalent?
Well, last year we did have daily rates. Off the top of my head, Dave, I don't remember what they were, and I'd have to go back, and I don't remember what meeting it was at. I want to say it was similar to this, though. I think it was $5 and either $3 or $5 and $2, something along those lines for a day pass. We're not outside of what we were charging last year, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I asked that question, number one, we haven't got a seconded motion on the floor yet, so we're just openly discussing at this point. I feel, even though we'll be taxing our available revenues to run the beach, that we should not be implementing increases this year, especially where we are offering half-day passes versus full-day passes. The other thing that I wonder at some point is whether or not there's a fail-safe in there that one person registers for AM and PM if the slots are available. Is there a default in there that doesn't allow that? Or maybe after a certain period of time it does allow that? Just a question. We still need to clear the beach every day at a given hour and reoccupy the beach at a given hour, but is there potential for the same person and or group to register for both time frames?
They could, but they'd have to pay for both time frames. It's set up exactly how online shopping is. So if you buy a pair of pants, but you want 2 pairs, you're going to pay for both pairs. So if you want to go to the beach in the morning, in the afternoon, you'd pay for both time slots the way that it's currently set up.
Okay. I'm not sure how to word this motion because we don't have the numbers. I don't have a firm number from last year other than the 5 and 2. I would rather that we stay with the 5 and 2, include the senior in the 2, given that they're getting a half day for that amount of money. So it's in effect an increase, and see how it works from there. If we have a deficit towards the end of the season, one of the options is we close earlier than our original close date, to cover part of that, at least on payroll. I just don't see it being appropriate to increase fees and cutting the time in half, as Mr. LaFord mentioned just a few minutes ago, but in effect actually doubling their cost if they want to stay there for the full day.
Yeah. Allow me for 1 second to ask Kayla a favor. Kayla, can you send the town hall, I think it's Ellen Griffin, whoever works in Kathy Herrick's office. I'm in the park commission minutes from last year. For some reason, there's 2 sections of them. So there's like It says Park Commission Minutes 2019, and there's two different ones. The first one that I'm in is from January to May, and when I click on the May 29th, I get an, oh, now it comes up. Ignore exactly what I don't know. It was giving me an error message. I was going to ask you to go back to her and see if she could fix it. I'm looking to see what the prices were, Dave, last year.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember when we would have approved it. Now they all come up. Before they were giving me some like 404 error message. So Kayla, just ignore me. Let's see. I don't
It's
remember.
usually internet speed.
And I just deleted it off the website. Like I updated the website a couple weeks ago when I went in to take that link off so that people were not buying beach passes through. I got it, Dave. When I doing beach passes through the old website, I think I had removed the section on the beach since we didn't know. I think I left it as to be determined. All right, so last year for town residents, we did a $60 per family, $40 individual, $20 for seniors. I don't see that we did. I know we had a daily rate, but I don't, do you remember what it was, Susanna? I don't even see it in our minutes from last year. I don't see anything about a day pass, but I know we had
I didn't realize I was muted. I was responding. I didn't realize I was muted. Sorry.
That's okay.
I think it was 5. I don't think we said it. I think it was what it always was. And I only know that from actually going to the beach with my kids. And I think it was 5 for me and 2 or 3 for each kid.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was 2 or 3 though.
I think when we had talked about passes like several meetings ago, I think we'd only talked about increasing the season passes and not dailies.
I actually have it right here. So I'm going off of the forms that we had them fill out last year of how much money they collected and what they sold it for. So I'm showing she sold 3 adult passes for $18. So we were $6 an adult last year. Okay. But then on another day, I am showing 2 adults and she collected $10. Another one, we have 6 adults and 2 students. She collected 36. 5. So it looks like it was 5, and it looks like as I go further down here, she's got other ones, 3 adults for $15, 2 adults for $10.
Yeah, I don't think we went up.
1 student, 5 and 3. So I think we were 5 and 3 last year, Dave.
Okay.
2 adult, 2, yep, 2 adult, 2 student. So 2 for $16. So $5 per adult and $3 per
right.
student.
5, 3, and 3. There's still that issue of they're getting a 4-hour time slot basically rather than the full daytime slot.
Well,
and
with that, Dave, this is what I've got here. So, and I should have, I didn't think of forwarding this because I actually forgot that I had it. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we had 43 people, and at 5 o'clock, we had 20. Another day, we had 25 at 10:30 in the morning and 56 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. People seem to come and go. It doesn't seem to be, they don't seem to always stay.
It's a small town beach. I don't feel like it's like a drive and pack the car up sort of situation. Do you?
I've stayed there for a long period of time after swimming lessons, but it was maybe like once or twice a summer at most, and it was with a very large group of people that we stayed with. So I'm feeling like I probably wouldn't have stayed if I couldn't have my friends with me.
I think that people are going to anticipate things being different this year. I think we should stick with how it is.
Yeah. 5 and 3.
5 and 3, and you buy a time slot.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, so let's move back to whether or not we are going to add in there town residents only, because that is a policy and that's something we need to set.
Yep, absolutely. I would like it to be town residents only.
I would too.
Susanna is saying the same. What are you feeling, Dave?
Yep, that's fine. If you would add that to your 5 and 3 motion from earlier, I'm willing to second that.
Here's my motion. that we will be selling daily passes for $5 for adults, $3 for children and seniors. Children 2 and under are free. This is for Lunenburg residents only. There will be no non-resident passes for the 2020 season.
Second.
I'll second that.
Excellent. Let's do a quick roll call vote on that. Susanna,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
and an aye from myself. Oh, and what I didn't include in there was the time frames. I didn't say that they were for per session. So I don't even know how to go back.
Can we
I
just,
think you can just make another motion and vote on the times in general.
can you just say something like, instead of calling it a day pass, you call it a session pass?
That's fine with me.
Something
So
like that.
will you allow me to go back and amend my motion? I don't even know the correct way to do this.
I'll accept the amendment.
Thank you. So I'm going to amend my motion that we will be selling session passes at $5 adults, $3 for students and seniors, to ages 2 and under are free, for Lunenburg residents only, that there will be no non-Lunenburg residents for the 2020 season. Is that
Second. Second.
Yep, I'm agreeable with that.
another quick roll call vote on that, Dave? Is that an aye or an A? An aye? Susanna?
Aye.
Dave, were you a yes on that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And a yes from myself. All right, so that's the amended version of it. Kayla, I do think the LaFords are correct on, we do have a group of people that tended to swim later. I do not believe that we, as a commission, chose to set times last year. I believe we might have, Susanna, do you remember if we set times, or did we just leave it up to the beach to set the times? I don't really remember.
I think we just went with what it was already
Okay.
before that.
So last year we were open from 11 to 7. No, we were open 10 to 7. We were open 10 to 7. Let me just verify that. Keep closing my file that I didn't know I had, and it's become a wealth of information. So we were open from 10 to 7, I believe. Oh goodness, I can't even make heads or tails of this. There's a lot of times that she took attendance at 11 o'clock. She wouldn't have taken attendance right at check-in time. That wouldn't have made sense. So I believe that we were open 10 to 7 during the week, and either 11 to 6 or 12 to 6 on the weekends. Kayla, is there any way, I do agree with Dave that if we could add a little bit more time in for that buffer in between,
Yep.
if it was 45 minutes, I think that would be beneficial. So I'm wondering if we could, I don't necessarily want to open up much earlier, but I would like to try to do two things. Try to get those timeframes to be a little bit more equal, so that a morning session that gets 3.5 hours isn't going to be complaining that an afternoon session gets 4 hours. So I'd like to try to see if we can bring them down closer in time. And I'm wondering if we can, as we amend some of that, if we can try to get the beach open until maybe 6:30. It doesn't necessarily have to be till 7, to give some of those people that do swim in the evening after work the opportunity to do so. And I don't, again, Kayla, this is more your venue than it is mine in trying to figure out hours, if it's even doable. And if it's not, so be it. But, in looking at the numbers, and again, trying to say it without coming across as overly critical, I am not 100% sure of the accuracy of the numbers from last season. There were days that I drove by that I had notes taken of how many people were there, and they didn't go with what was reported and handed into us as a park commission. So I don't know for sure that when I say to you there were 20 people there at 6 o'clock, that there actually were 20 people there at 6 o'clock. But I am showing on stuff that they handed in that we did have, a decent attendance after 5 o'clock. So I don't know. That's just my thought process at this point.
I can make those adjustments.
Okay. Do you two feel, Susanna or Dave, feel that we should motion the opening hours, or are you okay with allowing Kayla to do so?
I
So-
feel like,
Yeah, I think we leave that up to Kayla because, you know, the other part of this equation is balancing the payroll costs over the whole season.
Yep.
I mean, you're already looking at 7 days a week at roughly 9 hours a day. So you need to spread your staffing over that number of hours weekly. And again, I haven't seen all those numbers to have any historical data in my mind. So I think we leave it to Kayla to work out what she feels is best. Obviously, it's going to need to be fairly quickly because we've got to start advertising what those session times are.
Okay. So Kayla, we're going to leave that to you. The programming, that's all you anyway. So I don't think there's anything that we need to do on you bringing if you try to bring in some programming to the beach. I don't think there's anything we need to do on that front. Can anybody think of anything else that we need to make a decision on as a commission for any policies that I may have overlooked?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I,
Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no, I think we've covered everything. Nothing comes to mind right at the moment in regards to the beach. I think that's our primary concentration for the next couple of weeks will be the beach. There's a lot of other stuff I'd like to dive into, but that's for a couple months from now once we get through this.
I would like to encourage everybody, and I've done this for the past few years, is to, and I know this year's different, is to stop at the beach when you have a free moment. And as long as it doesn't look like as long as we're not at max capacity, I would encourage you to stop, take a look, see what's going on at the beach, see how the beach is laid out when we have people on there. I think it's very interesting to drive by at different times of the day and get an idea of, who's using it, and are they kids, are they adults, because we can get everything in on paper, and that's beneficial, but it's also beneficial to see it yourself. I've gotten a lot of information the past few years over, and in years past it was different because I could walk in, I could sit down at a table and have a conversation with our beach coordinator and ask what she needed, if there was anything the commission could do. It's different this year because we have Kayla for summer. I'm excited for that. But it's also different because we've got social distancing protocols and that sort of thing. But if either of you have time as you're driving by, even just slow down, see the parking situation is many times atrocious down there. We'll see what it's like without swim lessons this year, but seeing that for yourself, it's beneficial. One thing we do need to take care of on the beach, and I'm glad that I went through that spiel because I wouldn't have remembered it. We actually need to make a recommendation on beach hiring. So Kayla, I'm going off my memory, so please chime in or correct me if I'm wrong. We have one application for the beach coordinator position, and that's the one we've had in the past, Jen Nass. And we have, is it 5 applicants for lifeguard, or is it 6?
Hold on 1 second.
Sure. And I'd like to, while you're looking that up, Kayla, Dave and Susanna, as we make these recommendations, do you want to make them as an entire group, or do you want to break them out individually as the beach coordinator and the lifeguard?
Well, I think we can probably approve the beach coordinator for sure right now.
Yep, and then we can do the lifeguard second, because we're going to
How
have.
many are we looking to hire?
Do we still are those jobs still open, Kayla?
No, they're not.
Okay. All right.
Julie did ask if I wanted them re-advertised, but I don't think that we need to, and I don't think that I don't know that we necessarily would get anyone where we're opening in 2 weeks.
And we didn't have a lifeguard course this year to be able to get some. Okay. All right. So we have Jen Nass as. Say that.
Sorry. There were 7 lifeguard applications. 6 of them returning and 1 new. One of them was to be more on like a per diem type of thing. I guess that's what she's done in the past.
Okay, so we have, again, correct me if I'm wrong, Genevieve Manass has applied for the position of beach coordinator. So let's tackle that one first. So we have one applicant for beach coordinator. The way this works is that Kayla will make the formal recommendation to town manager, or I can send it over after this, either one. We, in the past, have used this opportunity to support them. They are not hired by us, which I think is important to note as we move forward, just as a commission in general. They are not hired by us. They are hired through the town manager and the Board of Selectmen. So we would be making a recommendation this evening, not necessarily hiring these people. That would take place. They should have us on the agenda for next Tuesday, which is the 7th of July, to ratify that at the Board of Selectmen meeting. I'm open to a motion to recommend the appointment of Jen Nass to beach coordinator for the 2020 season.
Second.
Are you making the
Sorry.
motion?
I'm making a motion to hire Jen Ness for the 2020 beach season.
Okay.
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion at all? I am going to carefully throw out my opinion on this, and it won't really change anything. I have watched this town beach over the past few years. I think Jen Nass does a great job, and she has a great reputation. To let this go through without saying that I am concerned over some things that I don't want to go into great detail on, just because it at some point will become, it turns into a personnel issue. I think it's important to put that out there. I'm willing to give it a shot this season with the help of Kayla to make sure, oh, look at the baby in the back. Look at it, it's a whole family thing. Oh, don't chase him out. I'm more hopeful having Kayla on board and having another set of eyes down there to make sure that the protocols get followed. I wanted to put that out there because I do, although I will be supporting this, I do have some concerns, and I just want to make sure that the fact that I have a concern is known. So that's sort of where I am. So we have a motion on the table from Susanna and seconded by Dave. So let me go through and do a quick roll call vote. Dave?
Could I hold on, could I interject before we vote?
Absolutely.
I'd just like to ask Kayla, is there a very detailed expectation of responsibilities for this position?
There were the expectations in the job description, and I've also elaborated on them that I am adjusting in the handbook based off of the guidelines from the state and everything else. So for each job, there are a list of expectations and duties that'll be required from the position.
Okay, well, the only reason I asked that question is that the guidelines for COVID-19 require that we identify somebody who is responsible for making sure that we're compliant, and I'm assuming that this position is that person. Is that stated in that document?
That is being added to that, yes, because it wasn't obviously a requirement before COVID. So that is added to that.
Okay, just double checking. I tend to do things like that just to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks and we have a problem.
Yep.
Sometime before the 13th and are not able to open. I'm ready to vote.
Okay, so Dave?
Aye.
Susanna?
Aye.
And is a aye for me, although I will say I'm reluctant, but I have a lot of faith in Kayla to make sure this is executed. While we were, I'm glad Dave asked those questions because it led me to remember, Kayla, I think you need a motion from us on the document that you have that's going to the beach personnel. Fully, I've got some grammatical things about like the spelling of my name. That it's all right. I like to be Karen Menard with a D. It's okay. It's all good. But there was one change in here that's new that I think is a policy change that we need to deal with. In years past, we have said 12 and under, or that has been, I don't know if we ever took a formal position on it, but it was this current commission or the previous commission, but some of the previous ones, it's my understanding that they had said 12 and under needed a chaperone. It is now being recommended that we do that as 15 and under needs to be with a, is it somebody over 18, correct? That's responsible for those.
Yep.
I do think we need to make a motion on that where it is a policy change. I am in support of that. I am 100% in support of that. I think that especially with what's going on right now, as some of our fine young people in town are seeming to test some of the limits. So I like the idea of 15 and under. I don't know if Dave or Susanna have a opinion on that.
What does that mean? That the 14 or 15-year-old big brother of a 6-year-old can't take their sibling to the beach?
Nope, it's always been that if you were under the age of 12, that I believe you had to have somebody over the age of 18 with you. So your 6-year-old brother couldn't be brought by yourself or a 14-year-old babysitter. They had to be over 18. So the change to this would be changing it from age of 12 to age 15. So 15 and under would need to be there with a responsible adult. That's the change. That's the recommended change on this. That and the other one, and I go back and forth on whether this could be considered day-to-day or whether it would be needs to be a policy. Is the recommendation is to go to carry in, carry out versus having to deal with trash down there for this summer. So those are the two things. I think you need motions on those, correct, Kayla?
Yes, unless you decide that carry in, carry out is more of a daily thing versus a policy change.
Yeah, and I could go either way on that. So Susanna and Dave, throw out some thoughts on both 15 and under, 12 and under, and carry in, carry out.
The 15, is that going to be a permanent policy, or is that just sort of a COVID related, let's do that for this season? Or
we can change those, as far as I'm concerned, we can change those every year. So
I'd be okay with it for this season, given that the rules are going to be more strict and spacing is more of an issue, and grown up behavior or best behavior is more of an issue this year.
Yeah. Dave?
I agree.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to that effect to increase the age to 15 and under, requiring an adult be present.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Over the age 18 or older.
I'll second that motion. Is there any other discussion on it before we go to a vote?
No.
All right, so quick roll call, Susanna,
Aye.
Dave,
I'm
and an aye for myself. So you're good on that one. Carry in, carry out. This has been a topic of the past, and it's a topic again now. I think possibly two different reasons. So Kayla, is it COVID related that we're going to carry in, carry out, or are we trying to eliminate trash service down there just as a general thing?
This recommendation is more so with the COVID thing in talking to other rec directors and looking at surrounding beaches that are opening. They are moving to a carry in, carry out. They still have a trash barrel available, and it's more so not so much a strict guideline that other, just from talking to other directors and stuff, it's advertised as carry in, carry out, but they do have a barrel, not visible to the public, but they do have a barrel in case staff have to take care of anything.
And we would continue having trash in the bathrooms, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. That's been my concern in the past, and I just want to make sure that that's going to continue, or we're going to have clogged toilets.
Yes.
Susanna and Dave, thoughts?
I could definitely get behind it for the COVID period, and truthfully, I've seen the abuse that those trash cans take in non-COVID times anyway. So I hear both sides of it, but for this season, for sure, definitely, yes.
Dave?
Yeah, I agree, and I think the barrels should be inside the building if possible and not accessible to the general public. Just, you know, I haven't been in that building for a long, long time, so I don't know the exact layout, but there's definitely got to be a receptacle for the waste created by cleaning, so on and so forth. And then the bathrooms, obviously, you need a small container in each one of those. So you are going to accumulate some waste, but it should not be in a place where people can walk in off the beach and bring their coffee cups and whatever else they've brought onto the beach with them from fast food restaurants and deposit it into a barrel.
Yep, agreed. So I'm going to make a motion, trying to figure out how to word this, that we move to a carry-in, carry-out policy on the beach itself, but allowing trash cans in the bathrooms and for staff use inside the building. Yeah, that's my motion.
Second.
Any discussion before we go to a vote?
I'm good with that.
All right, so quick roll call. Susanna?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And an aye from myself, so that passes. I think you're good on everything in that. I'll shoot you over a couple of the things that I came across in reading this, Kayla. It was just consistency stuff. But it did. I do want to take the opportunity before I, just blabber on again on another topic. Kayla, I think you did a wonderful job at working with everybody to make sure that we could open the beach safely, and I appreciate all the work that you put into it. I know it was no easy task because you're dealing with other departments that you don't have control over and their speediness of response to you. So I appreciate your efforts on this. And to the folks in town, I can't stress this enough. The success of the 2020 beach season is going to take cooperation from every patron that walks onto that beach. A inadvertent sleight of hand and making a judgment, an error in judgment, could close our beach down. So it is going to be important that every patron that comes through those doors follows the rules, is patient. We are lifeguards that we are about to move into making recommendations for appointments. Many of them are teenagers. They're following the rules and protocols that are being put forward by the state and our recreation director. They deserve the utmost respect as you walk on that beach. The last thing I want to hear from any of our lifeguards, especially our teenagers, is that somebody harassed them because they didn't like that a mask was required, or they didn't like that you needed to have social distancing. These are not things that the Park Commission is making motions or policy on. This is stuff that is coming forward from the state. So as we go into the season, I just encourage all of the patrons that are going to be there to be accommodating to each other, to be patient with our staff, and we'll get everything worked out. And if there's a concern, Kayla is always reachable. I'm always reachable. Dave and Susanna are always reachable. Come to us if there's a concern. Please don't take it out on our staff. It's just not, I don't need to see a repeat of what I've seen in the grocery store lately of our teenage cashiers being harassed by customers in those stores. So that's my piece on that. Thank you for letting me spiel that. Couple of these are probably going to be fairly quick. We have field fees down, and field fees are down because, and I'm sure Kayla can elaborate more later, but the Phillies had approached her wanting to know if we were going to be able to make some adjustments on their field fees for the 2020 season. We approved back a few months ago, before all of this happened, I believe it was $1,500 for their season. They didn't get out onto the field until the start of phase 2, I believe, which would have been, oh my goodness, kids just melt my heart. So we might just have to Dave, you can't see, but Kayla's little one sitting with her, and she's the cutest little thing ever.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. We're going really late tonight. I'm sorry. We're making her TV debut on Lunenburg Public Access. So here's her 15 minutes of fame. So Kayla, how did you leave it with Joe Ruth from the Phillies that you'd bring it back to us?
Yeah, it was just more so in general. because even an outside group that has asked about reserving the fields, they've asked about pricing and if there's any difference in pricing for this year because their seasons are shorter. They're not using the fields as much as they typically would. So, and I said I would have it, you know, put on the agenda and brought up for the next meeting for discussion. And that I wouldn't collect any payments from any of them until I had a definite answer for them of what their fee would be.
Okay. On the Philly side, our fee structure has remained fairly unchanged because I think we were going to let Kayla make some recommendations in the coming months. We were charging $25. If somebody walked in off the street, we charged $25 per hour for use of our grass field. I believe I'm correct on that.
Yes.
At the Phillies are paying $1,500. They get, so that's equivalent to 60 hours of playtime at $25 an hour. Their season is still running for July, all of July, correct? Because their games are starting.
Yeah.
Do you know if that means that their games are going to, their season's going to be extended at all?
So let me pull up the schedule right now. Just give me 1 second.
And my other thought is, I'm assuming the Phillies pay to play, the young men on the team.
Yes, I believe so.
Well, you know if Joe adjusted their price?
That I don't know, but I could check with him.
I'm just, and we don't have to necessarily decide on this tonight. I think that we can work on it down the line. I guess my big thing is if he charged them the price that he's always charged them, and then he's coming to look to us for a discount, and they're still going to be out there, even if they at 60 hours. I mean, that's still a pretty good deal at $25 an hour to use the fields.
Yeah, he hasn't sent the game schedule yet, just that they would be anticipating starting. But when I'm going to talk to him tomorrow, so I can always get that.
So I don't know if Susanna and Dave have any questions to throw in there. I guess I would be looking to Susanna and Dave to say, throw some questions out to Kayla that you may have to help make a decision. I don't think I have enough information to make a decision tonight on whether or not we cut them a discount. As for the other groups, are they looking for a seasonal rate, or are they looking for a cut on what we charge per player or what we're charging per hour?
I think it was more so just clarification if the prices that we have are what they'd be paying, or if there was any type of adjustment because of COVID.
Without their schedule, how do we even know if they've missed any playtime?
I have their practice schedule, just not their game schedule yet. I'm looking at the email, and it just looks like he had said that they expected a game schedule soon, and that playoffs would go through August. But I will get a definite game schedule from him tomorrow, especially if they're expecting to start on Monday.
Yeah, if you could give us a recap for our next meeting of what they utilize the field for practice times,
Yep.
what they are using it for game time. So one of the reasons a few years back, just so you know, Dave, because I don't know if you were coming to our meetings then, when we had agreed on a seasonal rate for them, one of the things that allowed them to do was use it for the duration of their season, regardless of how long it went. So in years past, they've been very successful, and they've been able to play for much longer than, than some of the other teams. So, when I look at that, I don't know that. And as I just made my screen bigger, I totally forgot we didn't, and I'm sure Jared's hanging around for this. Jared, I apologize. We need to circle back after this discussion, and we need to make a recommendation on our lifeguards. I know that's why Jared's hanging in. Thank you, Jared. So I guess my thought to you, Kayla, and I'll let Susanna and Dave speak for themselves, is to go back and ask them what their game schedule is going to look like. Go back and tally up what they've used it for practice time, so we can have a better idea of what they were out there for hours. Because COVID or not, our fields are still out there and they're still being maintained, and it's not like we've, we're not changing anything.
And I can pull their practice hours from the system because their request is in the system and it tells me how many hours they're on the field. I just have to add their games into it. And just looking back at his email, I don't have their definitive game schedule. So when I touch base with him tomorrow, I will get the game schedule. And then when I plug that into the system, it'll calculate all the hours.
Okay. And the same thing to the other groups. My thought, again, not speaking for the others, is that we're still giving them we're giving them field space. So we still are required to maintain that field space. We're still doing what we do basically in a regular season. They have more work on their part to make sure that they're, sanitized the way they need to be. So I don't think we should be changing our fee structure because of COVID right now. And for any group that has a seasonal fee, if it's say the Little League, my answer to that is they should have already charged them $10. I believe they charge additional $10 above and beyond their registration to cover our $10 per head payment for those fields. And we've charged that for every season, regardless of the length of season. So I would be inclined to say we would just leave things the way they are. And the only one we'd be looking at is the Phillies. And that's, again, that would depend on what their hours are.
Yep, I agree with that.
I pretty much agree with that, if at all possible. And I know there's going to be an awful lot of other things going on, so we may not have all the data we want at the very next meeting, because I'm hoping that we do the next meeting in the very near future. I was going to ask about that before we finish tonight. But as much as possible, if it looks like, based on history, that even though they're getting a late start on any one of these groups, they're going to end up with the equivalent of a full season, then there's no reason in the world to change the rates.
Right. No, I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So if you could get some of that for us, Kayla, and then we can make a decision at the next meeting and figure it out from there. Let's circle right back up to the beach where we left off. Since we see Jared still here. Jared, I know you're listening. I want to give you a huge shout out because you have come to more than just Parks Commission meetings. I've heard you at the Board of Health. I know that you are following this, and I appreciate you following along and being as proactive as you are in trying to listen and be involved. So we have 7 lifeguards that we are looking to appoint, and we're looking, or recommend appointment. We're looking to recommend all of them so that they are available to staff the beach as needed. Kayla, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong. We have Liz Simeone. I don't know if Kayla can hear me. I just might need your help on this, Kayla. So I have Liz Simeone.
Yeah.
I have Cheryl Shaw.
Yeah.
We have Jared Bowser.
Yes.
Paige Gengler.
Yes.
Did Ethan Gengler put his name in?
Yep.
Ethan Gengler. The newcomer is Keena Kelly.
Yep.
And I'm missing
Lynn Major.
Lynn Major. So it's Lynn Major, Cheryl Shaw, Paige Gengler, Ethan Gengler, Jared Bowser, Liz Simeone, and Keena Kelly.
Yeah.
Those are 7. Does anybody have any questions, concerns, or otherwise?
No.
They're all qualified licensed lifeguards. So I'm going to make a motion that we recommend to town manager and our board of selectmen that we hire all 7 of those folks, hopefully appointed at the July 7th meeting.
Second.
Any discussion before roll call?
Just one quick comment, and I'm assuming this will get covered anyway. But part of the conversation with Jim Garaffi today was to be sure that our HR department also reviews with these new employees, once they're hired, all of the employee protocols that are in place for town employees, as well as what Kayla's going to be adding into their responsibilities at the beach.
Yep, absolutely. That will definitely. Okay. All right, quick roll call. Susanna.
Aye.
Dave.
Aye.
And that's an aye from me. So Jared, your next step is going to be listening to Board of Selectmen meeting on Tuesday evening, and then watching for communication from Kayla. So thank you, everybody, on that one. This meeting is running late, and I know that Kayla's got kids, and I actually have kids upstairs too. So let's see if we can get some of this.
Unfortunately, when I'm home, they don't go down to bed for my husband.
Gotcha. Well, I don't mind looking at her, but I know she needs to go to bed. FY20 budget recap and discussion. Kayla, were you successful at all in getting anything from Karen Brochu?
No.
Okay.
I haven't heard from her, and unfortunately, because I'm doing everything remotely, I can't access Munis from my house.
Okay, no problem. Hey, Dave, can I put you on a task? Can I ask that you see if you can connect with Karen Brochu as well and get some of your, because I have a feeling that I've asked for this information, but I may not be asking exactly what you're looking for information on the finance.
Sure.
So the other thing is too, Karen Brochu in the past has been wonderful in working with us. We can do it individually or we can do it as a group. She's always willing to sit down with us too. So that may be an option too. And hopefully we can get some more information on that budget side, because I'd like to know as well. So.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. I had thought about doing that because I've done that in the past for information as a citizen I was looking for, but I didn't want to make that move until the comments you just made in a commission meeting, which tasked me with that to actually go and do it, which is fine. I have no problem with it.
You don't need any permission from me as the commission chair or anybody for that matter when it comes to any questions. If you need a question answered, you don't need to wait for us. So always feel free to ask those questions and bring them back to us with the answers, because we're a small group. So sometimes we, don't always think of everything. So, all right. So does anybody have, sorry, Dave. Are you good, Dave?
I've got two very quick things. One for Kayla,
Okay.
and that is, I'm just wondering if the organizations that are using the fields are getting your permission to go onto those fields before they do it. I'm a little concerned that Jack got blindsided by the field conditions only because he got complaints after the fact that they occupied the fields. Is there a problem with the entities assuming that as of phase 2 they can do this, as of phase 3 they can start their games, or have you made it clear to them that they don't occupy the field until you give them the okay?
It was a little bit of, okay, we turn in paperwork and then we can get right on without waiting for me to say, well, these are still my questions, or these are still the documents I need, type of thing. The request forms that they submitted to me, they did start turning control plans, but the dates that they had on it weren't clear, and I was told those were just placeholders. And then it seemed like the very next minute, getting onto the fields and saying, oh, we're on the fields, and I'm still trying to find out exact schedules for every fields and stuff. So it was a little bit of all of that, I guess you could say.
Okay, that's fine. I just wanted to make that comment because, Jack did really get blindsided by that. And it's not his fault that he hadn't stepped up the upkeep of the fields because he wasn't given any warning. It was after the fact. And I think the organization should be made very well aware that just because they submit, as you just said, the required paperwork, they're not cleared until you clear them. And that's my concern with their game schedules. They should not be on those fields playing games until you vetted what they submit to you. And even if it's just a quick review and you don't see any major problems, then you get back to them and say, go for it. And I know you got a million other things going on, but unfortunately they're all happening at the same time.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it went for practices. We were in discussions, and then I was checking back on the dates because the original dates I was told were placeholders. And when I checked back on the dates, it was like, oh no, we're on the fields. And I said, okay, well, that didn't really give us any time to prepare. So that's kind of how it went. And that's my concern with the games, where the governor just released that in phase 3 games can happen. And for instance, just looking at one of the emails, it's like, oh, we plan to start games on Monday, but I don't actually have a game schedule.
Right. And that's kind of what I was keying into when you made that comment earlier, that, you know, it sounded like they expected, oh, the governor says we can do it, so boom, we're going to be on the fields right away.
Right.
That's not how it works. The protocols and the clarification has got to be in place before they're allowed on the fields. And these organizations have tended to do that over the years, you know, almost like they own the fields, but there are steps that have to be in place before that happens.
I will say that I think that, you know, it's been hard prior to now. When I came on the board many years ago, it was almost a free-for-all in what was going on and who could use the fields when. And you're right, Dave, they thought they owned the fields and they could do what they wanted when they wanted. I think
Right.
that in the past, we've done a fairly good job at trying to rein some of that in. But we didn't have a full-time employee, and we have that now. So I'm hopeful that as Kayla moves forward, that her policies don't fall on deaf ears. And I think we'll be sure of it, because if they do, what her requirements are to reserve fields and use fields aren't followed, then they're not going to have a field to use, because we're not going to let them out there. So I think going forward, I think Kayla's seeing what I've seen for a number of years, and I think that Kayla will get some of that under wraps. So I think that's awesome. Did you have another comment under there, or was that your last one?
I've got one more just real quick to get you up to date on the charter, because that will affect us somewhere down the road. I still don't know exactly when. Excuse me. A couple of weeks ago, it was announced that the Senate had approved the charter and moved it to pass it over to the House of Representatives. Since that date, I believe it was around the 9th of June, if I remember correctly, it's been sitting in the steering and scheduling committee. And I was in contact with Representative Hayes' office over the last few days and asked, why is it sitting there? And is there a way to get it moved forward? So it's kind of very slowly creeping through the process.
Great. And you're going to figure out for us how those seats are going to get filled once it clears?
Yeah, I'm going to talk with town council initially, and I had the conversation with them over a year ago, and I don't remember what we decided happens if we're in the situation we're in now. We just passed an election, and if the charter got approved and handed back to us and posted, but whatever the town clerk has to do with it, which puts it fully in effect, then from that point forward, how do we fill those positions? I don't want to make a comment either way, because I don't remember what we determined on that. So I will follow up on that.
Okay, awesome. All right, so what is everybody thinking for next meeting date? I know, Dave, you're hoping for sooner than later. Susanna, somebody give me some dates. What are you looking at?
My thought process was that we plug in a date and even, you know, tentatively schedule one, and without a calendar in front of me, my brain doesn't work real well to pick a date. But I was originally thinking that we had a 13th date that you guys had penciled in before I got on the board. I think that one might be a moot point, because that's opening day. So we're not going to have anything in regards to the beach to talk about at that point, unless there's a real disaster that day and we talk about it that night.
What about July 30th?
I was thinking the same.
30th or the 23rd. So we have a couple weeks of the beach under our belt, and is that too late for you, Dave, the 30th?
Well, the only other concern I have is if anything pops up that turns out to be a roadblock to what we've moved forward this evening, that if it's something that the commission needs to deal with, we need to kind of be penciled in somewhere in there in the near future. We can always cancel the meeting if there's no need. But,
23rd,
you know,
maybe?
kind of thinking that the end of the month will be a good time to review, okay, we opened and this is what happened, this is what works, this is what doesn't work, or whatever. And some of the other things we talked about tonight to do in the next formal meeting. But I'd like to plug a date in very soon after, or actually, you know, I think the bigger issue is if there's roadblocks to opening, it needs to be before the 13th. And very possibly we would cancel it.
Yeah, so here's my thought on that, Dave, because I've got a couple of pretty hectic weeks coming up. If we needed to have a meeting because of roadblocks, we need 48 hours notice. We're a group of 3 people. We need 2 of us. We can throw that together without even having a placeholder there. I guess I would like to see us do either the 23rd or the 30th as an absolute date to get an idea of how the beach is running. And then go from there. Because again, if we need to do something before the 13th to make sure that we get the beach open, if there's something we have to be involved in, then we will absolutely be doing that. We're not going to not meet, just in the same way we did. I don't remember why we originally said the 13th. That was probably my grand idea. And we moved it up.
No, it was a Baker announcement sort of related time frame.
So, you know, again, I think we're all right not having something penciled in because all we need is 2 of us and we can get that done pretty quickly. And I'd like to put in a definite, because penciled in spots don't work great in my calendar right now because I'm just so overbooked with virtual appointments for my extra kids.
Yeah, I would move that we go for the 23rd.
Okay. Can we go do 6 o'clock? Does that work, Dave?
Yeah. No problem at all. I could do 5:30 even if we needed to.
You want 5:30, Susanna?
I like earlier, but whatever.
Let's do 5:30 on the 23rd, and I may have my kids on my lap. I don't know. So, Kayla, thank you for hanging in there tonight. I appreciate it. So let's go with the 23rd at 5:30 p.m. Hopefully I remember. I'll put in a request this evening. Or I may, yeah, I'll probably put in a request this evening as a placeholder with town manager. So, because we only have 2 Zoom accounts, so there can only be 2 groups meeting at a time. So I'll put that in so it's a placeholder. Yeah, and I don't have anything else. So unless Suzanne.
Tell you what, I have 2 Zoom accounts. I'll use one of mine to set up a meeting, and we can record it and hand it over to Pat. But anyway, that was in jest.
I don't think we need to though.
That was totally in jest.
Most groups don't meet at 5:30, so I think we'll be good. All right, I think we're done, folks. Does anybody want a motion to adjourn this at 8:59 p.m.?
I motion to adjourn at 8:59 p.m.
Excellent, thanks, Susanna.
Second.
Second by Dave. We are all, so quick roll call, I guess. Susanna?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
And an aye for me. We are done, folks. Thank you
Hey,
so much.
Karen, before we sign off, would you please double check that we got on the agenda for the 7th?
Yep, I'm going to email, Kayla, I'll send out an email tonight and I'll CC you on it, since you can now go to bed with your kids. I'll send it over to town manager tonight and I'll include everybody that needs to be included. I did already ask to be on that and she had volunteered it as well, so we should be, but yes, I'll definitely get it out tonight. So,
Okay, thank you.
everyone.
I'm good.
Guys.
Good night.